So, got to be talked about how to analyze contractors' variations. Variations are the norm. That's the reality, and that's how much can be up to as far as 10%, can be. I will talk to you about that in a second. Be way more than that as well. So this is the real acid test. But before we get into variations, the pitch has to be set up to be fair to everybody. And if it isn't, then variations are the floodgates. If you don't have a contract, if it's not robust, if it's not the right type of contract, then variations will swamp the project. Absolutely. You need advice. You need advice in contract type. You need, and I know a situation where I'm involved, and the contract was involved and everything seemed right, but the contract was utterly horrendous from the client's point of view. It was a old 2001 contract with the Law Society and the Construction Federation of Ireland. It was meant to readdress the imbalance in power that some of the other contracts might have had, which has since been renewed, and in all honesty, utter disaster. But it takes away the third party neutrality that a homeowner can get to protect themselves, and it left them up to huge variations. So much so, one of the variations was for a garden wall going to cost half the price for the whole construction of all the block work. So to build a garden wall, the contractors were trying to charge the homeowners half for the whole project. So I won't name places, I'll never name contractors, but there is knowledge out there, which people get away with for a while, but not long term. Not long term, and I'll certainly never ever label or discuss any of this either in person or with anybody else. But that's the nature of where we can be at certain times. Suppose so. There has to be. This is all fine, but there has to be the right contract. Without the right contract, sitting ducks. And so the RIAI contract, one of them has to be involved. Whichever one, it does matter, but it doesn't particularly matter in comparison to none, and in comparison to that highly skewed contract I talked to you about. Gotta be honest with you, not often that I speak my mind candidly, but that really pissed me off. Lovely people being totally exposed and taken advantage of, really. But thankfully we're going to tender, we're going to turn things around, and we'll use the right mechanisms with the right builder. So first of all we got to decide, sorry, I'll come back here, sorry about that. Is it actually a variation? What's this, and is the status agreed, and is the price correct? So what we're going to do, if it isn't a variation, some items aren't variations. Sometimes people don't read the specs in full in connection with the drawings, and what may seem like a variation actually isn't. Sometimes people are so emotionally involved, they're biased, and huge amount of pressure in construction from all angles. So is there a change in materials? Is the sum agreed? Is there no breakdown? And then there's legitimate. So there's different stages and different types of variations, or lack of variations. So projects, you may have 8 variations submitted. Yeah, I'm not good at maths here, sorry. 3 of them were already rejected, 2 of them were material change, and a couple of outstanding ones. Sorry, that's embarrassing, isn't it? But what I wanted to show you, 8 can be submitted. Doesn't mean to say they're all agreed. and you have to go back to the document and scrutinize the document and the scope of works. So what actually happens is when the contracts are being signed, the bill of quantities gets attached to the contract, which embeds the rates, and that's what you actually analyze the variations against the given rates at time of contract. If there's an increase in materials, that can be analysed. We've got to be fair to everybody. Everybody has to be treated with the utmost respect throughout the process. So I did one, there was internal doors, the guy claimed for 8 new internal doors, and there was no new internal doors. There was actually all of the existing doors were to be reused. These are just small little examples, guys. Velux window, change tunnel, wasn't variation, it was on the drawings itself, and sometimes you may need to take snippets of the drawings to send it back as evidence. So you don't know how you're going to get the variations. Like, I have one guy, great guy, one of my favourite builders, one of my favourite people, absolutely, and he writes then things on a piece of paper and sends them over to me. I then have to quantify them, rationalise them, and have a discussion with him. And it sounds a little bit prolonged. It's actually fine because the man's a super guy and he's doing the best for himself and his family and the client. So it's absolutely fine. Sometimes you can get something that looks great and elegant and so much information, but they're hiding information in it. So simple sometimes works the best. Here's another example. This was for a claim of 3,500 and the actual difference was 333. Why? Because nothing had been taken away for the existing boards. The price of existing plaster boards was this price, fire boards were this, the price difference was this, number of sheets different, credit to the contractor for change in materials, and this particular guy was looking for £3,500 for it. When I questioned him on it, he actually told me that he needed more because the pink fire boards were heavier. Which they may be, but it's marginal. It isn't even quantifiable. And this is, I did one recently where there was 44,000 of a price for roof work, and 22,000 have been paid. And when I went through all of the submitted final account and variations, €50 in the difference. So there was 20 grand of extra stuffing in there. And guys can feel, rightly so, that they're very emotionally involved. They're very, very, very financially exposed. They can actually believe that they're owed money. And that's not necessarily logically the case. People, you know yourself, we're not logical beings. So you can see how that turned out with the plasterboards, and here was another one for cement boards. And once again, everything had to be taken off. All the green boards had to be put on, all the change in materials, but the reality, I think it was 5 or 6 grand here, but the reality was 1,200 because a lot of this was already pre-existing in, and then other materials had to be taken away. So this needs analytical work that knows how to analyze the bill of quantities to go backwards. And I mean reverse engineering. So that's essentially what you're trying to do. You're trying to take a variation, analyze its status, analyze its legitimateness, and then analyze its actual rates. And if there isn't a rate in the bill of quantities for it, then you use similar work of a similar nature, and if that isn't in there, then you do use current market rates. So there is mechanisms within the contract to analyse this, and if you don't have a contract, then it's going to be difficult. So in this another job, there was a whole front garden reinstatement for the front pier, the gate, the air to heat pump, the the location and the work associated with it, the ground, the pebble stones, the patio, and I think there was one or two other things, the curbing, the grass, and all the rest of that. All of this was already included in the contract, every single bit of it, and even the cold tap. So you've got to be analytical, and the first thing you got to do is do nothing. And I know that sounds like a Roryism. Yeah, doesn't sound very philosophical, but you just got to relax, and you got to clear your decks, clear calm time to compare this against the drawings, against the bill of quantities, and against the specifications, and against the scope of works. So there's a fair little bit of manoeuvrability, and that takes time, but as you can see, I think this was 5 or 6 grand and it ended up being nothing. So so you can see the nature of these. These are just examples, but they are real life examples. That garden wall, unfortunately, is another real life example. So let's go back down here. You can see them there. So they need to be analysed in conjunction with the documentations, but this is only possible if they are associated with the actual signed contract. So not any extra is an extra. Material change needs to be priced. Agreed sums need a breakdown. Just can't be submitted. And if things are submitted without a breakdown, then you're sent back. You will end up with situations that are full of ambiguity because there may be incongruences between the scope of works and the specifications and the drawings. So what happens in that place is the drawings take precedence. Okay, every decision reference back to the contract, and the contract is based upon the drawings, essentially. So if I can help in any way, let me know. That's just a quick overview of this. Of this. I wish I'd had a glass of water doing that. Sorry if my voice is a little bit hoarse. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.